We have no other name for them. The Shadows were old, when even the ancients were young. They battled one another over and over, across 1,000,000 years. The last great war against the Shadows were 10,000 years ago, from Dylan of Babylon 5. It's been a while since I've done a video reviewing the different sci-fi faction fleets, and there's one faction I left out which deserves its own video, and that faction is the Shadows from Babylon 5. The Shadows are one of the oldest races within the Babylon 5 universe, and is considered the biggest threat to the galaxy depending on your perspective. They originated from the planet of Zahadum, which is located in the outskirts of their outer rim. Even their name, the Shadows, which was given by the younger races, stems from their shadow-like nature and the way their vessels were designed. It's stated that their actual name is 10,000 letters long and is unpronounceable by any of the younger races, which is no surprise. For anyone that's not familiar with my fleet videos, I usually review the faction's technology first and then review the different ships. At the end, I analyze the overall fleet to determine the pros and cons. The Shadow Fleet is made of organic vessels, which is common among other first ones. What separates the Shadows from the others is their warlike culture and the experience they gained from thousands of years of warfare. The Shadows believe that war and struggle is the only way to grow their society and become stronger. Their tech and the design of their ship is what gives them their given name, the Shadows. Their vessels are black and seem to blend into space. What really helps the Shadows gain its ability to fade in and out of space stems from their phase drive, which allows their vessel to phase in and out of hyperspace. The Shadows usually only use this ability to avoid attacks, which is called half phasing. Half phasing is when a Shadow vessel places half of their ship into hyperspace to avoid energy attacks, which misses the majority of the time. The pilot of the vessel merges with the ship, and any direct attack on the ship brings the pilot pain. To help protect the vessel from being completely destroyed, the Shadows added a self-repair system, which is a similar design used by other first ones. There are limits to the system's ability. If a tendril on the Shadow ship gets destroyed, the self-repair device will be unable to repair it. I wouldn't say the Shadows are known for their defensive abilities, but when it comes to offensive abilities, it's a different story. Their weapons are simplistic and seem to be different to the other first one's weaponry. The Shadows seem to focus on a select few of weapons, such as the molecular slicer beam, which is a common weapon used by their cruisers. It's a small molecular beam which can cut apart an enemy ship. The younger races are unable to withstand such an attack, while other first one vessels will be able to withstand the beam, depending on the size and the ability of the vessel. There's also a weaker version of the slicer, which is used by smaller Shadow vessels. We also got to see this weapon in use, but from another faction, the Earth Alliance. The Earth Alliance was able to gain this weapon's ability by attaching Shadow tendrils to their ship. The next weapon that was used by the Shadows was also used against the Narn, called the Vortex Disruptor. Originally, this weapon was developed to be used against the Vorlons. The theory was if the Shadows were able to get the Vorlons to face them in open combat, the Vorlons would win or try to escape. If the Vorlons tried to escape, the Shadows would fire the disruptor into the jump point, which will collapse it and destroy the vessel in the process. The disruptor by itself is useless without being fired into a jump point. The Vorlons were able to improve their jump drive to avoid this issue. Now their ships would be able to enter into hyperspace before the jump point collapsed, which forces the Shadows to only use this weapon on less advanced races, like the Narn. Before we start reviewing the different vessels within the Shadow Fleet, we must take a look into the polarity cannon used by the Shadow fighters. The cannon is a molecular weapon which can fire multiple bursts. In other sources, the weapon is called a Shadow Pulse Bolt Cannon. Now let's review the different vessels within the Shadow Fleet. The first vessel on this list is the Medium Fighter. The fighter is 15.3 meters long and is unable to independently operate on its own. Once released by the cruiser, the fighter becomes another piece of the pilot that operates the cruiser, making it where only a few cruisers are able to deploy fighters since it causes so much strain on the pilot. The fighter has a bioorganic armor which helps protect the ship from attacks. It's also equipped with one polarity cannon or Shadow Pulse Bolt Cannon. The next vessel within the fleet is called a destroyer. It has a variety of roles within the fleet, but it's mostly used as a scout ship. The Shadows usually send this vessel first to an area that they're planning to attack, to get an idea what their enemy's defenses are and how many ships they have. The pilot who usually operates the destroyer or the scout ship is usually weak and timid, which is the reason why the vessel flees once it encounters enemy forces. To make things worse, the vessel does have a phasing pulse cannon, which does not contain a lot of firepower. Luckily for the vessel, it does have a jump engine which allows the ship to escape through hyperspace. The destroyer does have a bioorganic armor to help increase the chances of it surviving. Other variants of the destroyer are designed to eliminate fighters. Over time, the Shadows found that fighters were able to overwhelm their defenses, which is the reason why they designed the destroyer to eliminate the threat. Before we continue with the other vessels within the fleet, we must go over the Shadow Dreadnought. The Dreadnought's the largest known vessel within their fleet, and the pilot that operates the ship must be mentally powerful to deal with the mass size of the vessel and the power that it holds. The Dreadnought has the same design as a cruiser, but bigger. The vessel has self-repair abilities and a bioorganic armor. It's armed with 2 molecular slicer beams and 2 vortex disruptor launchers. The Dreadnought also is able to launch 12 fighters as well. Before we review the last vessel within the fleet, let's give an honorary mention to the Shadow Death Cloud. I wouldn't call it a vessel, but technically it's part of the fleet. The cloud is made up of organic framework that carries thousands of thermonuclear missiles. Around the framework is a nanotech cloud which is capable of independently moving by itself. The Death Cloud's main function is to destroy planets, but it can surround enemy fleets if needed and slowly destroy them. Now let's review the Shadow's most iconic vessel within their fleet, which is the cruiser. Commonly called the Battle Crab or the Ghost, this vessel is the primary ship within their fleet. The cruiser is able to take a great amount of punishment before it takes real damage. It's armed with 1 molecular slicer beam and a vortex disruptor. It's defended by a self-repair ability and bio armor. The cruiser is also able to launch 4 fighters depending on the pilot's mental ability. Overall, the Shadow's fleet have improved over time to fight their enemies effectively. When we analyzed their weapons, we found different weapons that were created to give their ships an edge over the other first ones. The only flaw I can see is their lack of vessels that can carry more fighters. It might benefit the Shadows to create fighters that can operate on its own, which will allow them to use these fighters in high quantity to overwhelm their enemies' defenses. Let me know your thoughts about the Shadow fleet in the comment section below. Also, let me know which Shadow vessel is your favorite. If you like this video, then please like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to click on the notification button to keep yourself updated with my channel. For more sci-fi content, then please check out my socials. Thank you for watching Utopian Broadcast, and I'll see you next time on my channel. Thank you.